So I think as economics has been configured over the last several decades in the academy, but also in policy advice, it unfortunately doesn't have answers. There are economists who are working on this, right? There are also economists who are creating new training programs for students so that economics will be able to at least say something about capitalism or about some of the issues that we are talking about, but currently it does not.
Economics is not an all-encompassing discipline. One of the critical things that is missing is the issue of ethics and morality, which one can say encompasses things like inequality, fairness, climate change, and equal opportunities, etc. Now, if we're using pure economic theory and economic model of supply and demand to make these decisions, these moral and ethical concerns, to give you just a few examples, will not be taken into account. And of course, that is not how society should operate.
If we define the economics in a very narrow definition, maybe the answer is no. It could not solve the problem of the issue of climate change, pandemic, etc. But I do believe that economic thinking is also dynamic, and try to learn from the past experience, including our mistake in the past.
And I actually think that economics does a fairly good job when it comes to the issue of race, inequality between genders, even climate change. That does not mean that economics alone is able to solve climate change, because we have to realize that climate change depends mostly on cooperation between governments. So even if economists were to come up with one solution, when I say one solution, I mean that even if there is no disagreement among the economists, I think it would still need a political decision.
This question is really about the philosophical foundations. Different research philosophies inform various debates in economics. Ethics, value judgment, positivism and normativism, all of these foundations, combine together, determine how much economics can help to move the needle on different areas.
I think economics fails to address issues like climate and gender and tech when it treats them in isolation as purely economic problems, rather than taking that more transdisciplinary approach with other disciplines like politics and biology, physics, philosophy, psychology, art, even. The other thing that I would add is that economics also fails to address some of those broader questions, because it really treats people and sees people as consumers first and foremost, rather than as citizens in that civic sense of the word.
It's not a world which is in a nice equilibrium, gets knocked off a bit by shocks and so forth. It's a world in which everything is changing, everything is evolving, everything is adapting. And we just have to learn how to deal with that in a much more pragmatic and much more modest way, but in a much more purposeful way.
Honestly, I would say in most of the cases it does not. While used properly, could contribute to addressing these issues in a better way, and guiding at least the organization of information. We live in a world where there is a lot of information. Often people without a good economic background, also statistical background, are not able to use properly this information.
I think a lot of these issues are by nature economic issues, and they ideally should be addressed in the economic discipline. And I think people are in wider society, people are feeling kind of stuck actually, because there's just a lot of looming tensions and problems that we've been talking about, like you mentioned, like climate change, pandemics, wealth inequality, racism, whatever.
And I feel like that results in the models that we are taught in class on how to solve pollution and how to decrease the social cost actually won't work, because the environment is not considered as central to the model. And so all in all, I feel that it has the tools to explain environmental problems and actually solve them.
I have proposed that to make social justice compatible with environmental justice, we need to replace the stress on growth and redistribution with the stress on providing economic stability, not prosperity, securing people's livelihoods, the essentials of life. Then, once people, feel more secure, they might be able to venture into, the risky experiment with a new type of production and even maybe with a new type of society, a post-capitalist society. But to think big, we need to have some basic economic security.